Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AI Agents Hackathon live streams.
The AI Agents Hackathon is a free virtual hackathon running from April 8th to April 30th.
We're hosting over 20 live streams where you'll learn how to build agents using various Microsoft technologies. At the end of the 3 weeks, submit your project for a chance to win fantastic prizes.
And now over to our friends at Reactor.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the AI Agent Hack. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to review our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer live. Our session is recorded. It will be available to view on demand within 24 to 48 hours. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thanks for joining.
Hello, folks. Good afternoon, or I guess good morning, good night, depending where you are watching us from. My name is Enrique. I am a software engineer manager in AI Search in Azure, and today I'm going to be talking to you about VoiceRAG. So, what is VoiceRAG? Well, it's basically a pattern to help you talk to your data. If you have used AI, I'm sure you know about RAG and how you can make AI systems talk to your own data. The question is, how do you do this through voice? So let me tell you a little bit where this started. A few months ago, OpenAI released the new real-time audio models like GPT-4o real-time, which were super cool. They offer real-time, full duplex audio communication. We started playing with them and we loved them. Of course, because I work at AI Search, what we mainly care about is giving memory to AI systems. We already have a lot of customers using us to do RAG. So we decided, hey, what can we build to extend this pattern to also use voice? And that's how we came up with this voice RAG pattern. Before we dig into the details of how you can use this to build your own agents that use voice, talk is cheap, but let's look at some actual working thing. So we're going to start with a demo. This is the website that has the sample. This is basically the sample running on a website. We'll share the links to the GitHub repo. You'll be able to run this yourself, deploy it to Azure, use it with your own data, and have the same type of experience. So we're going to try to make this work. Let's see if the demo gods are with me today. Yeah, let's get into it. So before I hit the play button, let's say, this RAG system is loaded with employee handbook information, right? So PDF talking about different perks details, different insurance options, basically employee handbook, that type of thing. So that's the data that you have. So we're gonna ask some questions about these employee benefits documents. Okay, does the company employee perks cover scuba diving lessons? All right, well, that was amazing. Of course, the demo gods are not with me today. Uh, awesome. But
Enrique, hey, I'm
yes,
so sorry to interrupt. I actually have some late breaking news. If you check our studio chat, we do have an updated URL. I believe that Pamela was able to fix the demo.
oh, wow, okay. That
Yeah,
is,
in the break of time, my friends. This is truly live, everybody.
all right, nice. Pamela, so I'm assuming it's in the same website. Let's check again. Does the company employee perks cover scuba diving lessons? Ah, sad face.
Yeah, I think you
don't
need to
think.
use the new URL. Did you use the new one that I just sent in the studio chat?
Give me a second.
Take your time.
All right. Well, thank you, Pamela. Like right on cue. This is amazing. Thanks to Pamela. You're the best. All right, let's try this again. Third time's the charm, right? Does the company employee perks cover scuba diving lessons?
Yes, the company employee perks cover scuba diving lessons.
What are my options for healthcare plans?
The company offers 2 healthcare plans, Northwind Health Plus and Northwind Standard.
And what do they cover?
I don't know the specific costs of the healthcare plans.
Do all of the plans include emergency care? Do all of the plans cover emergency care?
Yes, both Northwind Health Plus and Northwind Standard plans
Okay,
cover.
great. Cambiemos a español. ¿Están incluidos los exámenes anuales de vista en el programa de salud? ¿Están incluidos los exámenes anuales de vista en el programa de salud? ¿Sí? ¿Están incluidos?
Sí, los exámenes anuales de vista están incluidos en el programa de salud.
Ok, gracias.
De nada.
All right, folks. Well, as you saw, after some trouble, it did work. Thanks, Pamela, for fixing that. So some things to highlight. First, you can interrupt the model. This is a real-time conversation, so at any point you can stop it and it will stop talking and you can ask follow-up questions. The second thing I want to mention is, as you saw, you can switch language to Spanish or whatever other language. I switched to Spanish at the end, and the model was able to answer questions in Spanish. This time it took a couple of tries, but when it's working as it should, it just works like straight away, right? And that is really cool because if you have customers talking in different languages, it allows them to just use their native tongue. For me, that's Spanish. I'm from Spain, so that is super cool. The other thing I wanna highlight is you may have noticed these grounding files pills popping up. So basically, as the model was answering the questions, it will surface the piece of the document, the chunk that it used to answer them. That way you can verify yourself if the answer that it's giving you is accurate or not, right? At the end of the day, these are AI generated answers that you should not really trust, right? You should verify yourself for anything that's very important. So yeah, there you go. That's a full end-to-end RAG solution using voice. Now, I want to dig into the code and talk a little bit about it. So basically, the app is pretty simple. What we have is a front end built in React and a backend built in Python that talks to the model and also talks to AI Search. So all of your data gets chunked and ingested into your Azure AI Search index, which is basically your knowledge base. And your front end is your classic, React app that we have configured to work with all of the audio input and output that you need. And the models expect your audio input to be in a certain way, the output to be in a certain way. You don't have to worry about any of that. We already basically figured out for you and gave you some React components you can use. For the backend, we tried to keep it simple, and it's basically a Python middle tier that is compatible with the API from the OpenAI real-time models. So this is like a drop-in middle tier that will enhance it with RAG capabilities, basically. And you may be asking, like, okay, well, why do we actually need this for RAG? Why can't I just use the model directly? What's the difference here? The difference is citations. How do you do citations? Let's take a step back. If you have a regular text-based, RAG system, if you have done this before, then the way you would do it is when you want to get citations, you can prompt the model to tell it, hey, whenever you find some data in a document, include the name of the document. So you typically see the model returning, for example, in between brackets. It's like, oh, well, this is my answer, blah, blah. The employee benefits are X and Y, and then brackets, employee handbook.pdf, close brackets, right? And then the model will return this, and then on your front end, you can just parse that message and strip the reference to the source file. But how does this work if you do it over audio, right? Because if you prompt the model to return this, then it's going to read it out loud, and you don't want it to read out loud like I just did, right? You want it to give it to you in a way that you can parse it and show it on your front end. So that's something that we had to figure out. That's embedded. It's basically the core of VoiceRAG, and it's something that you can use if you leverage our sample. So as you can see here on the left side, the sample structure looks fairly similar, right? Mainly we have a backend and a front end. I'm gonna dig a little bit in the code. Let's start with the front end. Again, React application. This is the main app. You can take a look at it yourself. It's fairly straightforward, nothing super fancy. The main important piece is this use real-time hook that we have implemented for you. And it gives you different methods to do different things. Oh, of course, I should mention that all of this communication between front-end and back-end and the model is happening via WebSockets. So this use real-time hook will use WebSockets to talk to the middle tier backend and get all of this nice VoiceRAG thing going on. So it gives you standard messages like, on WebSocket open, close error, on received error, on received response audio delta, on received input audio buffer speed started. Basically, for example, this means, when the model starts speaking, then you stop when the user starts speaking, you stop the audio player. So the interruptions play nicely. Likewise, when it detects that you started speaking, it's going to start recording your audio and sending it to the model and playing it back, right? And this is the core of it for citations. On received extension, middle tier tool response. This is the only message that we are injecting in the backend to make RAG citations work. And when you receive this message, basically you can parse it the way that you want. Here you can see that we're getting the chunk ID, the title, and the chunk itself, and we're setting it in state, and rendering like a little pill for it. You can look at how the hook is implemented. But again, fairly straightforward. Using WebSockets, we're sending different messages and listening for different messages. By the way, a question you may have is, how does the model detect that you are talking, right? Because it's not like you click record, you speak your message, and then you stop recording, and then it sends it. It's real-time, full duplex, right? So how does it work? Well, actually, the model itself can detect when you start and stop speaking and when to answer. So all of that happens automatically. Likewise, it can also parse your input, the question that the user is sending, and translate it to text using the Whisper model and give it back to you if you want to do, for example, a text transcript. And then, as I mentioned, we basically figured out how to do the audio, both to record the audio and to play it in the browser using the browser web audio APIs. So you don't have to worry about that. You can just use these hooks and they will do all the conversions. I'm a front-end developer at heart. I don't know about you, but I am not an audio expert whatsoever. So figuring out all of these, conversions between encodings, all of this is kind of tricky unless you really know what you're doing. So if you just want to have something that works, you can just use these hooks. All right. Now, switching to the backend, which is the most interesting part of this. Let me show you what the prompt looks like. So basically, we're telling it, you are a helpful assistant, only answer questions based on information you searched in the knowledge base accessible with the search tool. The user is listening to answers with audio, so it's super important that answers are as short as possible, a single sentence if at all possible. Why are we being so insistent? It's because these models are pretty chatty. So they will talk and talk and talk. So you have to try to contain them. Never read file names or source names or keys out loud. Always use the following step-by-step instructions to respond. By the way, I'll go on a super quick tangent. We found that using this structure to the prompting works really, really well in this case. Telling the model, hey, always follow this step by step. 1, do this. 2, do this. 3, do this. Before we did this, we had troubles with the model getting it to use these tools in the right order. But as soon as we use this pattern, it worked much better. So basically, number 1, always use the search tool to check the knowledge base before answering a question. Number 2, always use the report grounding tool to report the source of information from the knowledge base. And this is what will enable citations. Number 3, produce an answer that's as short as possible. If the answer isn't in the knowledge base, say you don't know. That's it. That's the prompt. So let me move over to the implementation of those two tools, search and report grounding. Right? By the way, this is using a function calling, of course. So this is the search tool. Search the knowledge base. The knowledge base is in English, translate to and from English if needed. Results are formatted this way, blah, 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 right? Fairly straightforward. The implementation of the search tool is down here, and it's basically going to make a query to AI search to get the chunks that are relevant to answer your questions. We have a bunch of technology in AI search, like semantic ranker, query rewriting, etc., that will allow you to get the most relevant chunks so that the answers that you generate are the best. But if you wanted to use a different vector store, you could easily modify the sample to do it. But of course, I recommend that you use AI search. The second tool that we need is report grounding. So basically, once search is called and you get some chunks, how are we going to report where it came from? So we're going to use this report grounding tool. And again, it says report use of a source from the knowledge base as part of an answer. Effectively, cite the source. Sources appear in square brackets before each knowledge base passage. Always use this tool to cite sources when responding with information from the knowledge store. So we're trying to be very prescriptive, like, hey, whenever you use the knowledge store, be sure to use this tool because we have to report the files that you used to answer it. And the implementation of it, you can see that basically when you give it a source, again, we're going to call AI search to get the properties from the document that we need so that we can report it back. In this case, chunk ID, title, and the actual chunk. It could be something else. And then in this other little Python file, RTMT, real-time middle tier, that's what that stands for. This is where we're going to handle, this is basically like a proxy between the front end and the model, right? And we're just gonna pass back and forth all of the messages, but we are going to inject this middle tier tool response, which is the only thing that is not part of the real-time protocol. And that's where we're going to include the sources, basically. It's going to give us the signal to call that tool to include the sources. And that's really the gist of it. If you look at this file, you'll see how the rest of it is passed along. Of course, another very nice thing about having this middle tier is that a lot of stuff is encapsulated here. So all of your authentication, if you're using API keys, all of that is encapsulated here. So it's not exposed to your customers in the front end at all. Likewise, a lot of the configuration that goes into using the model and setting up the conversations and all of this is encapsulated underneath here. All right, so that's my overview of VoiceRAG and the pattern. We'll be sharing the links in the chat, for the repo, so that you can, check it out for yourself. And I'm gonna take a couple of minutes to look at the comments and answer any questions that you guys have. All right, let me start from the top. Yeah, definitely, Pamela saving the day. Yeah, awesome. 10 minutes ago, there you go. Any docs on how to eval the voice model? We do not have, as Pamela said, we do not have any specific evals for voice right now. Murillo asked, how about the amount of token inputs in these files? Because you are handling a lot of documents. Again, thank you, Pamela, for answering. But yeah, AI search is being used here, and we try to make it as efficient as possible for this scenario. Okay, Rob is asking, how are voice RAGs observed? I'm not sure what you mean, Robbie. How do you mean observed? You mean like how you can inspect them? Like one way you can debug the communication that's going on is basically opening the DevTools in the browser and going to the network tab and clicking on the real-time WebSocket connection. If you click there, you will be able to see all of the input and output messages that are being sent. Okay, so the question is about the monitors. Yes, that is correct. So we don't have any telemetry wired up, but you should be able to wire it up like any other app because you have the middle tier and we're kind of intercepting all of the messages. So you should be able to do it. But we don't have that in the repo at this moment. Yeah, and by the way, all of the heavy lifting is being done on the model. So any telemetry that you can do on the model side, that's still gonna be work. All right, folks. If you have more questions, please drop it in the chat. Otherwise, if there's nothing else, we'll finish in a couple of minutes. All right, folks, I don't see any more questions. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks a lot for your time today. Be sure to check out the repo if you want to use this yourself, and have a nice rest of your day.
Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed today's session. If you aren't registered for the AI Agents Hackathon yet, register now at aka.ms/agentshack and start hacking on the agent of your dreams.
And if you have any questions along the way, just post in our GitHub discussion forum or attend our live office hours in Discord. And of course, make sure that you keep attending the live streams to keep learning about agents.
Once your project is ready, submit it before April 30th at 11:59 p.m. PT to be eligible for our prizes. Thanks for joining.